He's never fought us. Not us united.
My favorite moment in the entire... Maybe I should complicate this before I start speaking here.
Welcome to Under Two Capes Indie Wednesday. So glad you guys can join me as we journey into more comic books. And this week we are talking about TMNT, The Last Ronin, which is the first Ninja Turtles comic that I've ever owned. I heard the story was super dope, so I decided to check it out. And luckily, it lives up to the freaking hype. So let's get started. So a little information on this. So this was coming out actually around the time this channel was formed, and it's kind of interesting because it's this whole idea. It's basically the Dark Knight Returns, but for the Ninja Turtles, where New York is like taken over by the Foot Clan, and there's only one of the turtles left. Everyone else, for the most part, is dead. There's only one turtle left. They don't reveal who it is until the end of the last issue. So do with that as you will. So the background of the story is that this was actually a story that Peter Laird and Eastman had in their heads for like so many years. So it's actually really cool that they finally got a chance to put this to paper. So basically, this is the story of the Last Ronin as he returns to New York to avenge his family. And what's interesting about this is that the way they reveal who the last turtle is because for the longest part they play a good game of like misdirection where you think it's one turtle, but it's actually the one you would never expect. If you haven't read this book before, I'm going to give you 5 seconds to skip because I'm going to spoil who the turtle is. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the turtle arrives and gets his ass kicked by the Foot Clan's like cyber soldiers. He falls down into the sewer. He's about to commit seppuku, and then this girl and then the street urchin girl finds him, brings him into the lair where April O'Neil, old with cybernetic limbs, brings him some food. He wakes up in this hospital bed. She goes, "Who are you just talking to?" "Michelangelo." That's right. It's Mikey. Mikey is the Last Ronin. So, as it turns out, the Foot Clan went on this offensive all these years ago and took out injured Splinter and injured Raph. So, what happened is that there was this big attack at the same time as there was this attack. So Raph goes out and he tries to get payback. He ends up being killed, but he also kills he kills one of the main bad guys. So at the same time, there was this great battle. Actually, what happened is that so the new head of the Foot Clan shows up, and he goes, "Okay, I want a peace treaty with Splinter's group." So Splinter and Donatello go to Japan to negotiate the peace terms, except it's a trap, and they're both killed. And then Leo and Casey are killed so they're basically back in New York, helping these other people evacuate. And then all of a sudden, like these drones show up, and just blow up the whole building and kill them both. So that leaves Michelangelo, and he ends up going to the mountains of I think it was Japan. And what happened was he thought that the coal was going to kill him, but the mutagen changed him and made him so he really can't die. Throughout this entire book, they make it so the mutagen is changed, he can take more punishment and such. But what's really cool about this book is that throughout the story, we have Mikey essentially receiving he has not premonitions, but he has hallucinations of the other three brothers talking to him. So we still have the interaction among the brothers, but they're essentially ghosts, which I think is a really, really cool idea. So then we get lots of background on the battle. And what's cool is that all of the flashback sequences are drawn by Eastman. So it's a little more classic in Ninja Turtle feel. And at the same time, and what's cool about this book, what I like, is that it deals a lot with warrior culture, Japanese warrior culture. It also has a lot of cool depictions of a mix of samurai mechanized infantry. They have great battle scenes, like big grand scale battles. They have giant like Dark Knight Returns style tanks. Again, this is pretty much Dark Knight Returns, but for Ninja Turtles. Again, aging warrior comes back from retirement to exact vengeance or because their work is not done. So it's really, really cool. They did a fantastic job. I'm so glad I picked up this book. The art is killer. Really, really good. I know I say that every week, but because I just happen to be reviewing fantastic books every week. I don't know what it is. I must have great taste in comics. Well, really, you have great taste in comics because I only go for books that you guys recommend. And the main bad guy, the head of the Foot Clan, has like this cybernetic, it's nanotech. It's essentially nanotech, like a nanotech shredder suit. So that's essentially what that is that when Mikey hits it, it sort of regrows. So what he has to end up doing is overloading. Then Mikey actually ends up dying. So all 4 of the turtles are dead at the end. And then what's cool about it is, like, first off, he wakes up in like heaven, and heaven is like hanging out with like the 4 turtles, Splinter and Casey in New York City in the good old days. And at the same time, April and her daughter Casey are like making new Ninja Turtles. And by the way, Casey, I forgot to talk about Casey. So it turns out Casey Jones. So there's 2 prongs here. So Casey Jones and April O'Neil had a daughter named Casey. And what's cool is that, so because they were around the turtles so much, the mutagen sort of radiated out and like irradiated April's womb to the point where the kid was born with enhanced strength, speed. So she was essentially a super soldier, which, again, when I read that, and I was like, okay, that makes sense, but it's really cool the way they reveal it. And it's just so well done. And again, I cannot even say, all these battle scenes are epic. The training scenes are great because Mikey essentially becomes her teacher, and that's actually really cool for the youngest turtle to become the teacher. And then he essentially tells her at the end, he writes a final note in Splinter's journal. Essentially, so in Splinter's journal at the very end, it used to say no peace, as in N-O, as in there can be no peace until this is avenged. At the end of it, Mikey writes in there in the last page, he goes, "It's your last lesson." And it says K-N-O-W, peace, as in you can now know peace. It's time for peace. And I just love that. It's a final parting message, and it's just so cool. Plus, the Last Ronin just looks so cool. He has all the weapons of the brothers, and he uses each of them in the battle. And he goes, "Say hello to Wrath." He just stabs the dude with a sigh, and here's something from Leo's. Cuts him with the sword. It's really cool. I love this book so much, and that's where I'm gonna leave my review of this. I give it a solid like 9 to 10 out of 10 because the book is so fantastic. The writing's great. It definitely evokes that old TMNT feel, even though it's super dark, and TMNT is typically very lighthearted, but it still has its light moments, and it still like touches on that nostalgia bone enough that it's not relying overly on nostalgia. In other words, like what a lot of Superman fans want, and it tries new things too. That's what I love. That's what I love about comic book stories, when they try new things and do a lot of and take a lot of risks. In other words. So this is great. I love it. Highly recommend you pick up a copy of this because you will not be disappointed. Even if this is your only Ninja Turtle book, this is so good. This has actually inspired me to see if I can get the other books, the other comics for Ninja Turtles. Fantastic picking up from IDW. And so that's where I'm going to leave this. Next week's indie is going to be a request that I know it took me a long time to get to this book. It's because a lot of stuff piled on, but I'm going to be reviewing Sidekicked. It was recommended a long time ago by a listener. I just never got around to reviewing it. I'm doing it now. And I'll give them a shout out on that video. So anyway, in terms of what's next for the channel, we have Under Two Capes is going to be this weekend. It's going to be pretty fun. And remember, movie night is on Sunday, not Saturday. Just this week. Just this week, I'm just moving it a day. We're going to be talking about Throne of Atlantis, one of my favorite DC AMU movies. Oh, and also Under Two Capes or Monday video, we're going to be talking more in depth with Lad, probably about the James Gunn plans into the DCU. So in other words, it'll be more delving into a lot of the information that was released about Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters. So be on the lookout for that. And subscribe to all the Comics Leaguers, Nick, Taladia, Jay Heat. And again, pick up this book. It's super dope. Stay heroic, everyone, and I will see you in the next review. Thank you for watching. Stay heroic.